Welcome back to Some You Speaks. So today I'm doing this podcast with my mom once again, and we're going to continue our conversation on women and feminist themes and patriarchy and everything related to that topic. So one thing that I've noticed is that almost everything is labeled as patriarchy whenever possible. Like it's just something that people like throwing around without actually trying to understand the meanings behind it, and it's sort of diluted the feminist movement if you just look at something and just say, oh, patriarchy, oh, that is patriarchy. Like there's just a missing nuance, which is making the people who are against feminism and the people who are pro-feminism just not able to have the same language in which they can converse with each other. And so I want to help bridge that gap by being able to just discuss different examples and really bring out why people are saying what they're saying. Because I think that if you can understand why people are saying what they're saying, then it's easier for you to find a common humanity approach rather than a common enemy approach when you approach a debate. And it's easier to debate in good faith when you come from that perspective. Okay, so that's kind of what I want to start with. Just examples of where people are quick to say, oh, it's patriarchy. But it's actually not patriarchy if you think about it. So just to get us, talking about it, I'll just give you an example from a family friend. So we have a family friend, and he has basically not allowed his wife to work. And the moment, if I give you this example, if I put it out there on the internet and say, what does this mean? A lot of people will say, oh, this is totally an indication of patriarchy. This is totally something that is suppressing women, it's regressive, why is he not letting his wife work? And then I don't know if these people would ask further questions to really understand whether it's really patriarchy. And because we know them, we've done our due diligence. The reason that he doesn't let his wife work is because he's paranoid as a person, right? And so he's paranoid about everything. He's just paranoid that if they go out, something will happen to them, some kind of paranoia. So that's why he's not let his wife work. He just acts like that with everyone. Like when they visited us once, they didn't want to go anywhere without us, right? Mm-hmm. Like if we didn't go out with them, they wouldn't have gone out at all to see the places. So that's like the kind of paranoia they have, or he has. And that's the reason he hasn't let his wife work. Patriarchy is if this guy really wants to, he thinks women are inferior, they cannot work, but that's not how he thinks. So that's one example. What are your thoughts? Do you have anything to add to that idea?
Yeah, I know whom you're referring to when that person was paranoid, and he was always, they lived in a neighborhood which wasn't very safe. Okay. So when a woman went out alone, then there would be people whistling to her, people who would be teasing her and things like that. Such elements were there on that street. So he was always worried that something would happen to the women folk of the family, and that's why he was like that. Yeah. But he wasn't averse to women working or anything like that. It's just that he was paranoid. You're right. That's a good example. The other one is Kanyadaan. If you remember that Kanyadaan, the ceremony in an Indian marriage, Vivaha, Hindu marriage, involves the Kanyadaan, where the father gives away his daughter in marriage to the bridegroom, and so the word dana is used. Dana sounds like it is translated wrongly as a donation in English. So it sounds like he's donating his daughter to the boy's family. And so it's called as patriarchy. But actually, the whole ceremony is so beautiful and so meaningful, whereby it is made clear that this beautiful girl of the father is going to the boy's family to bring prosperity, to bring knowledge, to bring education, to bring a whole lot of wealth to the family that she's going into. So it symbolizes so many things. It's certainly not a donation, and also because the father, when he gives the girl away, he never says that she cannot come back to him ever. There's no such thing. Mm-hmm. So when actual donations are made, this is something that I pointed out. Cows are donated. There is also Godana when you want to donate cows as an act of charity. Then the donor will say that this belongs to you and not to me. There is a na mama, that means not mine. Yeah. And he has to say that. But when it comes to Kanyadaan, giving of the girl, the daughter, the bride, he does not say na mama, means he doesn't say she's not mine while giving away the girl in marriage, which is a sign that the girl will come back. She'll come back again to visit her parents, she'll come back for various occasions. And I mean, if it, God forbid, something really goes wrong with the marriage, there is still that home she can come back to, her father's home. So it is wrong to call it patriarchal, and we have seen how so many advertisements have come out to say that we shouldn't have that ceremony at all. We shouldn't have Kanyadaan at all. So this is again a misunderstanding of the ceremony and the custom and calling it patriarchy.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a really good example. But initially, when we were talking about our family friend who you said that they because she would get Eve teased on the streets, that's why he wasn't letting her work. But people might still think that's patriarchal in that he hasn't tried to work around that, try to find out if his wife really wants to work, and if he can maybe drop her or just give her that opportunity to still go to work. So it's possible that can still be labeled as patriarchal.
So that's him failing in his duty, maybe to ensure that his wife reaches her full potential, the women folk are reached their full potential, find ways in which they can still go to work without being harassed. So this person has just taken the easy route and said stay at home and don't go anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that it's hard to, it's complicated. We shouldn't dismiss such men, but we should be able to work with them.
Yes.
And also educate them on whether this is really a choice that his wife wants to make as well.
Yeah, I mean, such men also need counseling because they are so worried, they're so over worried about the safety of their women. Instead of finding ways around it, they just want to completely shut their mind to finding ways around it.
And then coming back to Kanyadaan, why do you think this custom was misinterpreted though? If there's such an easy explanation.
I think a lot of customs are not fully understood and they're just going by the translations of those words, right? Because dana would be
translated. But you can, it's still, the woman is still being given away. If you think about it, I mean, the daughter is being given away to another family. So they still feel like that should not be a thing. The daughter isn't being given away.
Yeah, I mean, they don't like that whole symbolism of a girl being given away, when actually that is exactly what is necessary. If the girl if you want a new family to be set up, if you want generations to move forward, how is it going to happen? It's going to happen when a young man and a young woman get wedded and live together. And what do you want them to do? I mean, do you not want that they have their families around them?
Yeah.
So obviously one has to move into the other one's house, or they have a separate house where they live. And why would they want a separate house to live when they already have houses in which they are living, right? It's best to move into either of the houses, either of the homes, right? So that's how it was being done. And you can have it either way, whether the girl moving to the boy's house or the boy moving to the girl's house.
Right.
And in India we have cases where in northeast of India we have this custom of the boys coming to the girl's house. So after the marriage, the boy comes to live with the girl. Kerala, in the Nayar community, that used to be there, where the woman wouldn't move out, woman would stay in her house, the man would come, be with her for a bit, after marriage, give birth, and the man can go back, and she can choose another person.
Oh,
that also was there. But by and large, it was always the girl, the bride moving to the bridegroom's family's house.
Yeah. Throughout the world, the way society has developed on its own, these communities have not been talking to each other, but at the same time they've evolved this way in which they want the daughter to, the wife to go to the husband's house.
Yeah.
Right? And so it makes me think if independently society has come up with this mechanism, there was probably a bigger picture in mind. There are two examples. There are two choices here. Either the wife goes and lives with the husband's family, or the husband goes and lives with the wife's family, and they have to make a choice which one would happen in society, right? And it's likely that they thought that women are more accommodating. They're probably in their nature, they make more compromises, they adjust more, so it makes more sense for the woman to go and live with the man in their house.
That's how it must have evolved, because it might have worked better I mean, over thousands of years, people would have seen what worked better. And I think it worked better when the girl moved to the husband's house, the woman moved to the husband's house, because then she would be young, of course. So she would learn from the elders in the family and how to manage the house, how to take care of the children, and eventually she would then be the mistress of the house. And then that's how they found probably it works better that way, rather than the other way around. Maybe it didn't work that well the other way around, and that's how this became the more common method of the woman moving to the man's house.
But why did they feel the need to codify that? Like, this is how it's going to be.
I think the
Like,
codification.
what if it was a choice? Like, let's just leave it up to whatever you want to do. Either the man goes to the woman's house, or that's what they feels comfortable for. Because that's what it's become. Society has come to a point right now where freedom is most important. Do what makes most sense for your relationship. Why was it so important to codify these things?
I think codification brings a certain kind of stability to the society. It also comes, when your property is handed down, it becomes easier to do that. So I think that's the reason codification was being done. It becomes, it's easy to litigate also when there is a law made in a certain way. Then you're able to, because even in those days also there would be litigation, there would be courts where decisions would be made about who is right and who is wrong. So this seemed natural that codification wasn't in the sense that you would be arrested if you went against it, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, this is what they felt would be ideal for the traditions to continue, for the knowledge to be passed on from generation to generation. Let's remember that earlier we had home-based industries. Most of the work was home-based. So there would be different professions, and they would all be conducted from the homes of people. So before the industrial revolution and the industrialized societies, this is how it functions. So if there is a profession like, say, a doctor's profession, a medical family, so the husband would be the doctor who would be taking, the patients would be coming in, and the wife would also be helping with the preparation of medicines. Children would be involved in different other things. Other family members also with collection of herbs and getting the herbs ready. So when all that happens, so it's important that the family lives together and conducts a profession in that way. So all these things must have come into consideration when it was codified, that the girl goes to the husband's house and then they live that way. They make sure that knowledge is preserved. They make sure that traditions are preserved. They make sure that the worship of the deities are done in a certain way, right? So it's best to just codify it that way and ensure that everything is preserved for posterity, rather than just having a free for all, where then you don't know who will do what, and would that lead to preservation of knowledge and preservation of those social structures?
Yeah, it seemed like the ancients wanted to, they were less concerned with individual liberties and focused more on how to continue society and what is best for making sure society continues, and the preservation of these family units is key to that.
Continues with what? Continues with traditions and knowledge.
Yes.
Knowledge transmission happens, traditions continue, the worship of the ancestors, worship of the deities, all these are done peacefully, harmoniously, correctly. All these things were considered in those days.
Yeah.
Right? So you preserve all these things. It was important to preserve. Individualism, you're right, was not very important.
Yeah.
The family was important and the community was important. And preserving knowledge was important. The profession, they didn't want any profession to die out.
Right.
Like, if there are not enough people with knowledge to continue that profession, then that profession will die out.
Yeah, but I mean, that even if the man moves to the woman's house, they would have to continue the profession of that woman's family. Say that was the norm. So I don't know if that's a very good
that
example.
also would be a good example. Why not? I mean, knowledge to be preserved.
It's just, I think the reason why, so if the woman is at home, for instance, if she's at home, she's the one who passes on the culture and then the tradition to the next generation. So she'd be better able to absorb her husband's family's culture and pass it down while the man is out there working. Whereas if the husband moves into the wife's family, if he's also in charge of providing, how does he do that? How does he?
I mean, it has worked. Where it has worked, it has worked. In those matrilineal societies, it has happened.
Yeah.
But I don't think the man stayed for too long in the government's house, as far as I could see. The man moved out after the child was born and kept visiting, or something like that was happening. This is a more stable structure. The structure of the woman moving to the man's house has been a more stable structure, which has continued down the generations for thousands of years.
Yeah, and that standardization helps also the way they were tracking Gotras. So if it was a free-for-all society, then you wouldn't be able to track that.
Gotra is, again, it's about the patrilineal or matrilineal.
And Gotra is dependent on the Y chromosome as well.
Y chromosome,
so how do you, only the...
So the lineage would go from along the Y chromosome. Yeah. That's why the birth of a son became important, and the son would carry the father's name forward.
Yes.
That is the way it became.
In fact, it's biological. Like, it's not just the name forward. He's carrying the Y chromosome of his dad forward, and that Y chromosome belongs to his dad's dad. Like, it's the continuation of the Y chromosome that's passing on from one generation.
That is the Gotra. That is the logic behind Gotra.
And so I think that could possibly be a reason for why it's the woman changing her Gotra to match the man's, and not the other way around, where it's if the man moves to the woman's house, like, it doesn't make sense for his Gotra to change, right?
Could be, yeah.
Because if his Gotra, so, like, let me give an example. If he moves to the girl's house, he would change his Gotra to the girl's family, right? But his son isn't going to carry the Y chromosome of the mother's father. It's going to be the father.
Yeah.
So it's a bit messed up. So it makes more sense for the Gotra to be your husband's Gotra, to take the husband's Gotra.
Yeah, I guess that's how they would preserve the lineage. They would.
Yes.
So that's how you can track back all the way to the originator of that of that gene, you could say, of that chromosome, something like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of genetics involved here also in this, which you're only now beginning to understand.
Coming back to ancient India, can you just give me an idea of what would happen to women who would not want to pursue the traditional path of becoming a wife and a mother? Was it harder for them?
I'm sure, women would have had to negotiate their way through everything, right? So those women who would have been all right or with marriage and having children, I'm sure lots of women would have been looking forward to it, because that is how they had seen their mothers, their aunts all doing that, so they wouldn't have found anything wrong with that. So most women would have been looking forward to that. But those who didn't want to do that, in ancient India we hear of the term Brahmavadinis, so women who wanted to pursue higher knowledge, and so they didn't get married and they went pursued it further and further. So they also are worshipped. Their whatever they wrote is also being chanted in the Veda, in the Vedic corpus of knowledge. We have a lot of women rishis, right? So they would have been such women who didn't want to get trapped in marital life, but they wanted to ponder on the larger questions of life. They wanted to go further in understanding the universe and in self-awareness and things like that. Okay?
Were they discouraged though?
I would think typically women would have been discouraged from that, because women are also seen as the people who will bring the next generation, so they have that role as well.
Yeah.
So women are seen as Shakti, women are seen as people who are seen as a force of nature.
Yeah.
And so we need to, if a woman, a huge number of women get into this thinking that they don't want to marry, they don't want to have children, then what will happen to the next generation? How will the next generation come? So this worry would have been there. So obviously women would have been discouraged from saying that they don't want to marry and things like that. So, but then I think women would have negotiated their way. Even if you go back and look at the life of Mirabai, Mirabai decided that she didn't want to be a queen, and she just wants to follow the path of Krishna. She wants to worship Krishna, and she wants to meet Krishna. So she left home, she wandered like an ascetic. She faced a lot of tribulations, of course, because women weren't doing that in large numbers. So, but she continued, and then she went on doing what she wanted to do. So it's up to, I would say that just like today, women do women have to negotiate their way through and get what they want. They have to persuade their family members, they have to persuade society, and then go forward, right? Even today it's there actually. It's not like everything is easy for today's women. Yes, it's easier, but they have, even for men actually.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah.
Everyone in some way has to, if they want to do something that's against society, societal norms, they have to negotiate their way.
Not against societal norms, something different from familial norms also. Something that their family has not done before. Like somebody says, I want to become a filmmaker, and then you will face it from the family. That, oh, you won't have a regular source of income, if you'll only when your film does well, you'll earn, and things like that. They'll discourage, right? So if you're really, really keen on being a filmmaker, you have to fight, you have to explain, you have to do a lot of things, negotiate your way through, and then reach your goals. So that would have been so for women as well.
Yes.
That if they don't want to marry, it would not have, because you see, everybody wished well for the women. So the family members who asked women to get married wished the women well. They wanted them to be happy, to have companionship, and they want to be assured that this woman will be taken care of in her old age and things like that. She'll have children who will take care of her. That's the reason the women were told to get married.
Yeah, right? And that's actually interesting because nowadays, like in my generation, if like amongst my friends, they don't like being told by aunties and uncles at weddings that, oh, why are you not married, or all those things, and because they think it's regressive. But when I think about it, like I pondered about it, and I said, they're not asking because it's regressive. They're asking because they care about you and they're concerned, and they feel like marriage is your way of making sure that you're not lonely and you have companionship throughout throughout your life, because your original family won't be there with you forever, and you will feel that we're social beings at the end of the day. So I like to see where people come from, and if someone says, oh, why are you not married, I don't like take it as an affront. I know it comes from a place of concern.
That's true, but it can get annoying. I also understand women who get annoyed because let's say they have been looking for a partner and they haven't found anyone, and then they keep going on, they keep getting this question, but why haven't they found somebody? It can get upsetting, but it's not regressive. Yes.
Yeah, it's not regressive.
It's good to not label such things as regressive, but understand where it comes from.
Okay, makes sense. And also, one thing women don't like being told in today's day is to dress modestly. And this is a conversation we've had before, that, if, say, like rapes happen, the women don't like, when the discussion comes to like, what was the woman wearing? And I agree with that. Like technically we should never ask what the woman is wearing, because the onus falls on the man for being the person who raped. Like, we should not blame the woman. A woman should be able to wear whatever she wants. But if a family member tells a woman to dress modestly, I also understand where they're coming from, because we cannot, we don't have control over what society is. There are bad elements in our society, right? And anyone can do anything. We cannot trust men. And so if we do tell women to dress modestly, it's because it's coming from a place of concern. And again, we don't have to scream at them saying, wow, how dare you?
Yeah. No, of course, women should not be blamed for being raped or harassed.
That's not what I'm saying.
That is not correct. But as you said, we don't live in ancient India where men and women wore similar clothes. The same, a lower cloth, an upper cloth, and things like that. It wasn't different for women and men, except women wore more colorful clothes. But it was the same thing. It was the antariya, uttariya, the upper garment, lower garment, and there was also middle garment which you can tie around you any way you like. So today in a world, and also brahmacharya not being important in education today is also a reason. In ancient India, brahmacharya, which is the control of your mind, control of your emotions, control of desires, was all part of the education system. So a man, if he sees a woman and he gets a lot of these desires, if he's educated, he has to control all those desires and not inflict himself on the woman. So when that kind of training was there for men, it was safer for women, I would say. But today, it's actually the opposite. It's like everybody is indulging in their desires. There's no mechanism whereby the young people are taught in schools on how to control their emotions. So if they see a girl, a very beautiful girl, then then they have to rein in all those feelings that they are getting, and unless the woman wants their attention, they should not be falling all over her. This is a part of education, and if it's not given, then a woman is not safe. So so that's why maybe there is this, and let's remember that we were invaded. Indian society went through a period of invasions, which was very, very disturbing. That it was very bad for the women, especially because women were kidnapped, women were raped, and that led to society becoming more inward looking. In fact, that is when for the first time women were told not to go out.
So you're saying in the ancient India they could wear whatever they want and went out.
Whatever they want, in the sense, in those days they wore very revealing costumes. It was, the clothes were revealing.
Because there's no stitched cloth, so
so there was
no blouse in the saris.
So just like men expose their breasts, the women's breasts could also be seen.
What we see in the Amar Chitra Kathas, the way they dress.
Loosely wear a cloth around you to cover yourself like a shawl, but that's the way it was. So so that was you can see it in the sculptures all over India. So that's the way they dressed. Then when the invasions happened, that is when they had to cover up a lot more. And then when the colonial period came, they covered up even more because the Victorian Moors came into India. Right. So that's how the petticoat and all that came. Inside saris, petticoats were not being worn, but that was introduced. Blouses were introduced, which were not there before. So that's how actually we are dressing a lot more conservatively today than we were in ancient India. Okay.
That's a dichotomy that not many people understand, because like when we think about Indian society, we think of it being more conservative. Like if I cannot dress the way I dress in America, in India, or I'm very, very conscious, like I make sure I'm covered up more when I go out, because I know it would be frowned upon if you are too revealing.
So the society has undergone that shift because we went through this period of invasion and then colonization. So we don't think the way we used to think a few thousand years ago. But then today also India has changed now. A lot of girls wearing all kinds of clothes. It's happening. In fact, when jeans were introduced, they were considered as very tight fitting and all that. In the villages and all, it was considered as regressive. But again, that has become common now. And then, of course, in the cities, you see everything. You see girls wearing shorts. Then, and now, of course, with the influence of movies and everything, people are wearing all kinds of clothes. But yes, it is good to be a little bit careful when you are going out, because yes, ideally we want that women should be able to wear whatever they like, not worry about anything, but you should be careful about the neighborhood you are in. It's good to do that. The police should of course do its job, and they should make sure that women are completely safe and they can do what they like, but women on their part also have to be a little careful.
Like the way I've said it is that if we could design society from scratch right now, and we make sure that men have the kind of self-control, and we trust that they do, and there's that standard education system, then yes, I would say to any future daughters I have, like, go out, wear whatever you want, I trust the men folk. But in this interim, in this like stopgap measure until we achieve something like that, it makes sense for us to have to instruct women to dress a certain way, because freedom doesn't mean anything if this girl gets raped, right? The most important thing is protection. We don't want to ruin your life. So if we are instructing you at this point to dress a certain way, it makes sense.
True. Hopefully technology will come and help, and that'll so women will be safer with the help of technology.
Like now the iPhones have a way in which you can immediately alert the police authorities, like in one button, just like an emergency SOS, as if something is happening. And now like pepper spray, like there's all these things that we've come up with to help women navigate going out in the dark. So technology has helped a lot in giving women the ability to do a lot more things that they couldn't have done. And so, actually, another question for you: would you have liked to have been a woman in ancient India or a woman now, if you were given a choice? Which is a better
Well, since I've been researching so much on education in ancient India, I would have liked to be a woman in ancient India because of the kind of knowledge that I would have got if I had gone into higher learning, the kind of deep knowledge I would have got access to, right? Yes, I think I would have
But
liked
in which society was a woman more free or have more choice? Probably.
I mean, I really don't see any huge restriction of choice because women were all educated in the arts. So there was so many arts that women could learn. They could excel in arts, and then of course in married life also they could still continue with all those arts, right? And then it was a kind of a very beautiful nature-centered society. Why would I not want to live in that kind of a world where
You're talking about the world, but I'm asking you about
as a woman
the
also.
woman.
I mean, as a woman also, where the education is of such high standard
Okay.
in ancient India. Obviously, you're asking someone who just loves ancient India. That is a period I would have loved to live in. But having said that, today in the modern world, there are so many amenities which make life easier for women. There's a lot of technology that has taken the grind out of work, which would have been hard in ancient times for women.
Okay.
There was a lot of work they did manually in those days, which today is all automated. So that makes it easier for women today. But even with that, I would say in ancient India, because it was a joint family, a lot of women were there together, living together in the same house. So the work used to be divided. And even if there was a lot of hard work that they did for cooking, cutting, chopping, clean, making into paste, grinding and all that manually, even then I'm sure the work was divided in ancient times, and it was also helping with physical fitness, in the sense that women didn't have to go to the gym in order to keep fit, because there was enough work to do in the house which would keep them fit. That also was there. And today what I see good for women, as I said, is these amenities. You have all these appliances, and then driving cars. You have now to get from point A to point B. You have these vehicles that can be so easily driven. In olden times, it would have been like riding a horse, which would have been harder than
and so then
driving.
men would do it more often.
No, women would also do it, but it's harder to control an animal than versus controlling a car, right? So life is much easier for a woman today. We have to admit that. Washing your hair, drying your hair, so much easier than ancient times, where you would be using some kind of smoke to dry your. You would have to use firewood and things like that to dry your hair and all that. So it would have been more cumbersome in those times compared to today. But as I said, for me still, in terms of the quality of knowledge and learning, education, I would have liked to be in ancient India, to go deep, to learn deep, to have deep insights into things.
But I feel like in those days, I don't know how it was seen, but if women were not, I feel like the man was still providing, and I feel like the person who's providing just ends up having the more dominant role.
Well, actually, it wasn't that way, because as I said, if you have home-based industries where everybody together is generating revenue for the family. Why would you think a man is providing? That is today's way. This has happened after we got colonized in India, and there were jobs. There are jobs too. People go for jobs. It wasn't like that. It was more of entrepreneurial work in ancient times, in ancient India. So people are entrepreneurs, entrepreneur families. So that everybody knows that they're interdependent on each other. The family members are interdependent on each other to generate revenues. So there is, and the woman would manage the money. We hear so much about how the woman.
But they didn't earn it.
It wasn't thought that way, that she didn't earn it.
Okay.
It was like everybody earned it. We all earned this, and it's all going to be shared with all of us to get what we need. So that's not how it was perceived.
But I'm sure at some point, like maybe more in the West, or I don't know how it was in India, but at some point I'm sure the woman felt disrespected for her role in the kitchen. Or if she maintained traditional roles, it's easy for the man to come and exploit that, or be like, I can leave you now and you will have nowhere to go, but I can exist on my own. Like, that idea, that's the reason why women now, the financial independence that women have can prevent such a situation from happening.
True. I mean, those men who don't really, who are not ethical, who are not dharmic, they can do that. Yes, men who have not understood their purpose of purpose of their lives.
Yeah.
Yes, who are individuals who are like that. They would have done that.
So it's all about like your trust in society. I think trust in society has fallen over the centuries.
No, it's a samskara. The sanskriti.
The values.
Yeah, the values, the sanskriti.
If
men have, if sanskriti gets eroded, then the men don't understand that there's a purpose, higher purpose to life, and this woman, whom the woman who he has married is going to help him in achieving that higher purpose, and all these children are also for that purpose. So we are all together for that, and then that wouldn't happen. But yes, so many men wouldn't have that, and yes, there would have been exploitation, because women being so kind and accommodating would have often fallen prey to that.
Yes.
Because they are now cooking, they want to ensure that the best food is served, and so that they get taken for granted.
Yes,
Women get taken for granted. That would definitely have happened. And at some stage, when when technology made life easier, so the men were not doing the hard jobs anymore. Like they're desk-bound jobs. So
brain power became more important than brute force.
Yes. So then, if they are going out and they're doing nothing but sitting on a desk the whole day and then coming back, and then expenses are going up. When the whole lifestyle has become more expensive, right?
Yeah.
So a single income doesn't work. So then women also had to go out into the workforce, and that's how it happened in India. They also had to go and work, especially after we got colonized. So now government jobs became important and all those things. Rather than people owning their own lands, having their own professions as they did before, now suddenly all those professions were taken apart.
Yeah.
Right? And now people started working in offices under different bosses, government jobs and things like that, even private.
Yeah.
Then it became a little bit exploitative. And then that's when women also had to join the workforce. And then all these conflicts started about like who's going to look after the children, who is earning more money and things like that.
The competition came because women are now competing with men for the same jobs.
Same
Because
jobs.
first of all, it's based on brain power, which there's no biological differences between men and women in being able to compete for those roles, compared to something that requires brute power.
Right.
So that makes sense. So we watched Mahanagar, which shows that really well. Satyajit Ray made that movie. He captured that era in Bengal where a man he doesn't have enough money to support the household, and now he's a nice person. He wants he makes sure that his wife gets a job, and she ends up working as well. So it's beautifully shown in Mahanagar.
But then he gets insecure.
Yes, for a brief moment he does get insecure when she's doing extremely well, because I guess as a man you feel inadequate if you are not able to support the family on your own. It's like actually you want to give your wife a good time. You want to make sure that she doesn't have to work, and when you see her working you feel inadequate as a man. That's what he was going through. Again, I understand what he was feeling, but he got over that as well.
Right. It's also about, earlier on, it was thought that if the woman goes out to work, who is going to take care of the kids? How will the kids get the upbringing? Because with the mother has to teach a lot of things to the child, and if she's not around, then who will take care?
Yes.
So that's the reason the woman would usually opt to be at home, take care of the kids.
Yes.
But then again, as expenses rose, women had to enter the workforce. Initially, they entered at the lower level jobs. And slowly secretarial jobs and things like that, and slowly they realize they can do everything. They can be the bosses. And somewhere that happened, and then the competition of the genders started.
I mean, women have had to fight a lot in workforce as well.
Right.
I mean, when I go to work and I see the number of sexual harassment trainings we have to take, it just is sort of a testament to what women have had to fight for.
Yes.
And we've seen the show Mad Men,
yes.
Which early days in which women have started working and entering the workforce, and the way they've been treated, like objectified at work, very, very bad.
Yeah.
And so, it makes sense that facing all of that, if that's what you're facing, it makes sense why feminism has sort of, we call it extreme, but it makes sense for why it became such an extreme thing. where women are like, if you call a woman beautiful, say at the workplace, she'll get angry. Like, no, respect me for the work that I'm bringing, not for my beauty. And some people might think that's extreme. Like, why do you have to get? But it makes sense for what they had to fight.
So it's not just the sexual aspect, but also the fact that women had to prove themselves at every step to show that they're as good as the men.
Yes.
For example, women entered surgery very late. Women in medicine, women surgeons came very late on the scene. They were not allowed to do surgery because patients also didn't feel confident that women doctors could perform surgery on them. So if you read the history of that, you'll find that there were battles to be fought before women became surgeons, before women became pilots, because it was thought that, oh, how can a woman fly a plane? Passengers were not confident if a pilot is a woman.
Wow.
But today, look at how India has the maximum number of women pilots.
Yes.
Right? There are so many women pilots. So it's just about women having to negotiate their way, having to prove themselves that, look, I can do the job as well as a man or even better.
Yes.
I'm trained, I'm capable. So once she gave that evidence, then people started trusting them, and that's how they became they rose in the workforce.
Yeah, another good movie that we watched is The Perfect Candidate. You remember that? It's some kind of Middle Eastern movie. I don't know if it's Iranian or
right. Arabic.
It's Arabic, I think.
Yes.
I love how in the beginning there was a man who didn't want to be treated by the lady because she's a woman. She's a doctor and that. And then by the end, he is okay with her treating him. So she had to negotiate her way and win the trust of the people in the movie.
He's very proud that she's treating him. Right? That comes in the end.
Yeah.
So that's how women had to earn respect like that. They had to prove themselves.
Exactly.
Right.
So women have had to fight many battles, and some movies that we've watched that show that are like some of my favorites. Lapata Ladies that came out last year, and then there's Queen, another movie in which Kanyadaan Ranaut acted. These are all movies in which a woman is discovering something about herself, like she's going down the traditional beaten path, and then circumstances make her aware of her own worth and her confidence in that she can, mostly in both of these situations, it's that she can go out there and earn. Right. Because getting your first earning, it's like, wow, I'm independent, I can do this. And that's just such a powerful emotion.
Women tend to underestimate themselves. So some of these movies talk about how a woman had underestimated herself, and then somebody showed her that, wow, you can actually do it yourself. You can earn money, or you can you have a talent that you haven't thought about, you haven't nurtured, and then they came to know about your own talent. That's what it's about.
Yes, true. Yeah, so these are some great examples of movies that we've watched, and it was great being able to discuss this with you. I've been wanting to do it for a long time. Thank you, Amma.
Thank you. Had a good time. Thank you.